think about the rookie class, right? Because the injury bug hit the rookie class in a pretty pronounced way before the season even started, right? Georgia Amore blows her knee out. She's not even on the floor this season. Paige Bueckers is still working her way back, concussion protocol, and then an illness afterward has kept her out for the Dallas Wings. And it opens up some interesting discussions about the Rookie of the Year race, because good as Paige has been, Kiki Iriafen has also been good and on the floor. And that, it makes a difference when you start getting into the votes. Yeah. Now, there was a very interesting push this week made for Lexi Held with the Phoenix Mercury. Now, it was made by her teammate Satu Sabali, saying that what Lexi has done on the defensive end, but also as a shooter, has been massive for them. In the last 3 games, especially, she's come on big. 16 points on 7 of 14 shooting against Minnesota, 24 points on 7 of 15 shooting against Golden State, 14 points on 13 shots against Seattle. That was a loss, and her probably worst 3-point effort. She had a worse one against Minnesota earlier in the year. But, she is very much a part of this like bench rotation that is really getting the ability to open up the space for Alyssa Thomas, but also allow Alyssa Thomas to, dime them up. And with AT out, it's really been Satu Sabali and the Journey women, and yet they've been going to win. So the question that I have for you is not about whether or not she should be in the race, but this is a player that was drafted, or she was undrafted. She finished college at DePaul in 2022. She signed a training camp contract with the Sky, but obviously didn't make it to the full season. She's played overseas in Europe for the past 2 or 3 years, and now is a part of the Phoenix Mercury roster. Yeah. Do you think that should keep you in contention to be a Rookie of the Year in the WNBA?
So you're saying like because she played pro already? Is that what you're getting at?
She may not have made a team, but she signed a training camp contract. Like, she tried out for the Sky.
I think so.
Make it, but she tried out. She's been overseas for a long time. And more broadly, like in just the basketball parlance in general, I'm not sure personally how I feel about a rookie in men's or women's hoop that has been playing professionally abroad for X amount of years and comes over in their mid-20s. Like, if you're Luka and you're like the rare case of a kid that comes over here at 18, 19 years old, and you've been playing pro since you were 16, like, that's one thing. Like, Justy Josite is operating on a different set of rules, I think. And I would maybe even still be a little bit dicey given the fact that she didn't come over this season to Golden State. But at the age of 25, like, are you still considering?
Are you doing an ageism? Are we doing?
I might be engaging in ageism right now. I might be engaging in ageism.
I can't. So, like, when you first brought it up, I could honestly kind of get behind it from an age perspective, because there is like a genuine difference. Like, she
tried out for a WNBA team. I think that's the thing that's like,
see, that part doesn't bother me as much, honestly. Like, the idea of like, you're like, once you step foot like in a regular season game, when it counts, like, because like, to me, then it's like, okay, so does Georgia Amore not get to be in contention next year because she was out with an injury the whole season?
See, I don't know how I feel about that either. Like, I don't think you have control of that. And so I do agree that you shouldn't penalize someone out of the award for a catastrophic injury. But a catastrophic injury feels like a bit of a different element than you tried out or you played abroad and now you came over. It just, I don't know. Because if we're going to start doing that, then I feel like it opens up a lot of potential Rookie of the Year conversations for different players that have come in.
I think I could get behind an age restriction before like a training camp one, because to me, I just feel like a training camp is just such a very different experience than like an actual like season full of WNBA basketball. So like, yes, like while you might have participated, while you might have worn a practice jersey for a team, going through the full grind of an entire WNBA season, especially like coming off the heels of hearing these players talk about it and like how tough it's been going through, especially now with more games and everything, I think that's a different challenge in that way. It's not rookie of the training camp, it's rookie of the year. So for me, like going through that whole campaign and being able to find consistency as a rookie in your first year is what makes it what makes being rookie of the year so impressive, is that you are able to come in and presumably, generally speaking, hit the ground running as a first year player against these players of all ages. Right. And so again, I think because of like kind of the all ages, but I could get behind like especially in the WNBA in comparison like to the NBA, because like we have so many players that don't come over for a long period of time from Europe and later on in their careers, especially in comparison to the NBA. So I think I could get behind a potential like age like limit of like, okay, like this is where we cap this off at, like whatever age that may be. But I think from a play perspective, like until like the moment you step on that regular season court, it's your game on. Like you are in the race, and how far you run is up to you. But I think anything before that, whether it be through injury, whether it be through cutting, especially in the WNBA when roster spots are so limited and we see players just cycle through so many training camps and hardship, like all those type of things. I think I'm cool with keeping it. Age is an interesting conversation though, with the way that European players do come over at just later ages in the women's game.
Like Julie Allemond is an example of this.
Yeah.
Like Julie Allemond was drafted in the 3rd round in 2016 by Indiana. She played 3 years abroad, joined in 2020, and was an all rookie in 2020. But I feel like there is an element, and maybe this is a reason I look at it from like a rookie of the year standpoint, is I also think that some of the skill involved with being rookie of the year is in how well you adapt physically to basically like a grown adult's game.
Yeah.
And to your point on like the age thing, is I feel like if you're 25 and you've been playing for like a top flight club in France, or Italy or anywhere else, Lexi Held is a little bit different of a scenario because she wasn't playing for Asvel, for instance, like Julie Allemond was, but like you're playing professionals. So like there is one substantial hurdle that being like a cut above your class as rookies, like you don't have that issue because you're grown.
Yeah.
Whereas like so much of the surprise around Kiki Iriafen this year is the fact that physically she's matched up and met the moment, right? Like Paige, frankly, like concussion notwithstanding, like there was a question with Paige about like, would she need to put more muscle and weight on her frame to be able to
heard it last year with Caitlin too.
And to me, that was a part of Caitlin being so impressive, was the ability to do that. Angel, for all of the criticism that gets laid against her, like Angel's ability to translate her effort and work rate into the W last year was remarkable. I don't care about the me bounds and the shots. That's a totally separate conversation. But the question for her was going to be, you outworked your peers in college, and that was part of what made you great. What's going to happen when you face pro-level effort every night? And still she out-efforted
and
most
it was
of
the
the
same damn thing. The same damn thing happened.
So like there is a physical achievement component to it that I also think I grade in personally for rookie of the year. And I wonder like at what age that starts to become a more balancing concept, so that it's worth the discussion. And that's not to down on Lexi Held as a candidate in the slightest. The rules are the rules. And I think Satu makes a great point that they are as good as they are right now because they've got 3-point shooters, but also they defend like well.
Crazy. And
I was one of the worst.
Yeah, it was not expecting
the wings for worst defense last season. Yeah. I mean, they were giving up 100 game after 100 game with DT and BG.
Johnny would be getting a wicked DT takeoff right now.
Ooh, golly, bro.
Yeah,
that it was traffic cones. It was orange and purple traffic cones in Phoenix, and now. Even with AT out of the lineup, you have this incredible defensive presence, and Lexi Held's a huge part of that. So I do think the rules is constructed, she deserves consideration. The age. Do you have a rookie of the year contender right now, by the way?
I mean, so far, I think based on production and availability, I think I'd lean towards Kiki and especially just because I'm not gonna lie, and I think we're gonna talk about this a little bit later in the show, but the lack of success at all, and that's not necessarily Paige's fault from Dallas. Like it's just it's left
bad.
a pretty rough taste in my mouth. I'm not gonna lie, and then I think it's kind of an unfortunate scenario for Paige because look, to be quite honest, I don't know if I expected this. I'm not gonna go that far, but I'm not surprised to see Kiki doing these things. Like Kiki was the very first No Cap Space interview. Like we have been locked in with Kiki. And like knowing, like we saw her at Stanford. It was right after what game? It was right around when Tara got her jacket is when we interviewed her because she hit her first career 3. So like around that time, we were like, even before that, we were like, yo, she's kind of cold, right? And that was kind of like her coming out era during when we interviewed her. And so
they had a 40+ point game too against Iowa State in the NCAA tournament, which I thought was also extremely impressive, like on a number of fronts for them. So yeah, that with Kiki, that whole year was all about her and her ability to just make shit happen. And there's plenty of ink to spill on what happened at USC. The quote of, finding love in the game again is a little,
man, that spoke volumes, didn't it?
A little revealing. I think there's some stuff in there that we'll let dust settle before talking that through, because there's still some active players on the roster that I think if we go deeper, we might run the risk of burning people. But there's more to that story that I think is noteworthy.
That's been my favorite part about this is like seeing her kind of regain that flame a little bit. Like Kiki Kiki's genuinely like, not even like, just because she's hooping, but like genuinely like one of, like, we've been able to talk to her twice.
Oh man,
one of my favorite interviews
of No Cap
Space. Like genuinely like love talking to her. I talked to her in person at All-Star. Lovely there. Like it's a very clear and obvious difference just in the pure level of enjoyment that is happening with her playing basketball right now, and it's very clearly translating. And like, man, we were when we interviewed her, we heard about like baby Asia, and like the Asia inspiration. I'm not saying that she's going to be Asia Wilson. I'm not saying that by any means, but like, goodness gracious, some of the things that we are seeing sure look awfully familiar in a whole lot of ways. So I think to kind of get to the Rookie of the Year point, when you think about like in terms of her kind of being like my favorite right now, one, I think availability and like just kind of the recency of that. Like once Paige hits the court back and hopefully it hits it back and running,
it's
like
a race again.
Yeah. And so we get right back into it. But I think the fact that the USC tenure did not go as well as I think Kiki had hoped as USC, I think just across the board, it just didn't seem to really fit. People started underrating Kiki. Kiki was number 2 on this mock draft going into last college season for a lot of people, for good reason. And yes, it did not work out at USC. And yes, there were like some like legitimate concerns like to bring her stock down. But Kiki was up there for a reason. And I'm happy. Like personally, I love seeing that it's like kind of back for her. But I didn't expect it to this level, like the double doubles and all that. Like I don't know if you had asked me before the season if I was going to be expecting that, and also the opportunity to do that with how just loaded that was my biggest worry, honestly, was just how many forwards, like 4s and 5s that this team has on roster in Washington. So like that was a major worry for me. But in terms of the talent and the production, like this is no surprise to me that Kiki is out here doing these things. So I think I would like, I think when Paige has been on the court and what Paige has been able to do, it's probably better overall. And like what we've seen from Paige, but at the same time, like, and it's hard for me because I never want to take winning into consideration for Rookie of the Year. Yeah. Like that's not something I normally compute into what I'm seeing. However, what I am witnessing on the basketball court is simply so much better in Washington than it is in Dallas. And it's hard to just completely ignore that, even if that's not Paige's fault. So it's kind of a weird thing for me where it's like, I normally completely ignore that, but it's just really bad in Dallas right now that it's super hard to ignore.
Well, and what's tricky about it is that it's not past years. There's no analog for this. There's been a lot of years where rookies have been on bad teams and have guided and shepherded bad teams. Like, I mean, shoot, just go back 2 years, right? Like Aaliyah Boston going from 6 wins to 13, right? That is the most recent example, but there's a ton if you go back through the history. The problem is that I've not seen it look this bad. And to your point, and we'll get to it toward the end of the show, this is just there's something larger afoot in terms of the issues in Dallas that start with the head coach and what seems to now, at least reading the tea leaves of presser statements, a issue of whether his style resonates within that locker room. And if there's not another coach on staff whose voice is carrying a little more than the head coaches, which would create an entirely different set of problems, Paige can't overcome that, and like no player could, if you put Caitlin in this scenario, I don't think it looks or feels much better. If anything, Caitlin's probably getting ready to throw a fucking chair like Bobby Knight at either Chris Koklanis or one of her teammates. Like, Paige has a patient of a saint going through what she's been dealing with, even with the injuries included. Even going back to last year with Teresa Weatherspoon and the Chicago Sky, like they looked like they cared at least. And to me, there's nothing more indicative of a concerning locker room problem than looking like you do not care on the floor. And there's more than a few players that look like they don't care, and we're not even a month into the year. That in itself is a problem. But we're going to get to Chris Koklanis because we have some dispatches from the deep realms of the internet, names and places you have not heard in years, and it is among some of the funniest shit that we've ever heard.